I think it's going to be an early knockout. I think he's going to come in for a takedown and regret it.
All right, everybody, let us say hello to Braden Peterson. This man is stepping in the cage September 12th in Minnesota at LFA 217, and he will welcome Gable Steveson to the world of mixed martial arts. Braden, how are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Of course, this is a huge opportunity for you. You just made your pro debut in July. You had a 14-second knockout, and then shortly thereafter, this is put on your radar to fight Gable Steveson in his MMA debut. I'm curious, what was your reaction when you found out this was on the table?
I mean, it was exciting. At first it was kind of, to be honest, it was a little intimidating, right? That's a big name. It's a big dude. And I kind of weighed the options of it, and there really wasn't a downside. Just, no matter which way it goes, it's honestly just an honor to even be considered, let alone given the chance to compete against an athlete at that level.
What was that like? How long did that thought process take when you weighed the pros and cons? You realized there was a lot more pros. Was this a decision you came to in minutes? Did it take a couple of days? Like, how long did that thought process take?
Oh, I mean, it was seconds. I mean, I don't really turn down a lot of opportunities in general. Like, I mean, I'm getting into the game pretty late in life as it is, so I'm really just trying to do anything I can to get as far as I can as quickly as possible. So, I mean, I was actually working when they called me and talked to me about it. And, there was no, like, should I take it? Should I not take it? It was like, it was immediately, yeah, absolutely.
So I had known about this fight being on the table a few weeks before it was announced. It appears some I's needed dotted and some T's needed crossed. And then LFA finally makes the announcement, and it was a very big deal, and it took the MMA world by storm a little bit. Was there a part of you that was thinking, you know what? I said yes. I hope it happens, but maybe it might not happen because it took so long to announce?
Yeah, kind of. I was sitting around because I had signed my contract probably a couple weeks before it was announced, and so as soon as I send that contract in, I'm just waiting for the poster to come out, for it to be announced, and just to get excited about it. Because it doesn't, for me, nothing ever really feels real until there's a picture with it and it's being announced by the promoter and everything like that. So it was, hard to get too excited about it until it was official. But yeah.
The weight lifted off your shoulders once you saw the video and saw the announcement?
Yep, definitely.
So we'll talk about the fight and what it means more in a moment, but obviously I want to learn more about your story. First off, you said you started this MMA journey a little bit late in life. Why did it take so long? And what made you eventually pull that trigger to go in a cage and punch people and get punched in front of people? Because as you very well know, this is not a sport for everybody.
Yeah. It honestly, I haven't been, when I was younger, when UFC started getting big, when I was a kid, it was like Chuck Liddell and everyone who were the big names back then. And me and my friends all would, yeah, we're all going to be UFC fighters one day. But I wasn't like a big MMA fan, really. Like, I mean, I liked it, but I didn't watch it a whole lot. And I was the same way when I played football. Like, I didn't even really watch that much football. And it honestly was kind of on a whim, sort of. I was at my friend's house and he had on the Tai Tuivasa, and I forget who he was fighting, but it was last year. And I was looking at him and I was like, those are some hefty boys. They got those dad bods. They're a little jiggly, and they're in the UFC. So like, you're telling me you can compete at that high level and still enjoy some burgers and not have to look like Brock Lesnar or, guys who are super strict on all that. And I was in Utah visiting my friend when I did that. I came back home and there was a promotion, a local one, putting on a fight. So I reached out to them and I was like, "Hey, you guys got room for a heavyweight fighter?" And they're like, "Yep, come on over." And a couple buddies of mine, like, we just started training in my buddy's garage and training for an amateur fight. And that guy ended up pulling out like 2 weeks before the fight, and they couldn't find anybody else to fight me. And so I ended up doing an exhibition against the number one pro in Montana at the time. He was the only one that would do the fight, and went 3 rounds with him. And like, immediately after, I was like, this is the greatest sport there is. Like I am hooked. Like we're doing this, and this coming fight will be my seventh fight this year. Um, just because like I said, I got into it and I was like, this is awesome, but I don't have the time that most of these guys do to build an amateur record. I did 5 fights in 4 months. One of them was 1 week apart, and just because I got to get it started before I can start making any progress. And it's been a lot of fun so far.
So wait a minute. You just were watching a Tai Tuivasa fight and you're like, okay, I could do this. And then you just went and did it. Did you have any training experience, like anything? Or did you just say like, F it, let's send it and go? And you and your buddies just went in the garage and started training?
A little bit of both. I was a cop for almost 10 years, and so part of my training in that was some jujitsu and kickboxing, but most of it in like a more of a defensive tactics kind of way. So I had a base of it, and just being a cop in general, and growing up, I did a little bit of boxing with my friends and stuff, but nothing real too formal. So yeah, it kind of was a little bit of a fuck it, like let's go. Yeah, I went 4-0 from there, and picked up a good gym here in town, SBG, and climbed a whole lot since then.
So what made you decide to move on from the law enforcement career, if you don't mind me asking?
We could do a whole segment on that question alone.
Oh, gee.
But I mean, in short, it just was, I got kids and I was working nights and holidays and weekends, and missing birthdays, and it was just kind of too much for a single dad really to be able to manage, and the pay is crap. So it was just kind of getting out of it, which is kind of interesting because there's not a lot of jobs that you can say I left this job to take up cage fighting and it's less stressful than that other job. But
yeah, especially there's not a ton of money in MMA these days either, unless you're in the UFC and going on a run, or a veteran or a world champion. So, but
oh yeah, absolutely. Like I work full time as a carpenter doing construction. So I mean, it's not like MMA is paying all the bills, but
so, I mean, you just, like you said, you just sent this thing and went after it, and you did have a little bit of a baseline, and then you just went in there and had these really quick fights. I think almost all of your fights, besides one, ended in the first round. One went to the second round. We didn't go beyond that at all. And you've obviously won a hell of a lot more than you've lost. What have been the biggest lessons you've learned competing in these fights, especially picking this up so quickly and just fighting like every week, it seems?
yeah, I mean, learning a lot, like, and that's kind of one thing I have going for me for this fight. And actually, even the last guy that I fought in July, I've kind of connected with a little bit, and we've chatted quite a bit after that fight. And he was like, dude, I mean, I watched all your fights. Like, you never threw a kick before like that. And the thing I have going for me is I've put in so much work in such a short period of time that people are watching my old amateur fights, and that the fighter I am now from what I was even just then, just a few months ago, is vastly different. So, I mean, it's learned a lot. The one loss that I had, same thing with him. I actually became buddies with him. He's actually helping me train for this fight coming up against Gable. And that was a huge learning opportunity for me. For that was kind of in that one, I was more pacing myself to go 5 rounds because it was a title fight. That I sort of forgot to be violent, and that's kind of what went wrong there. And that dude is an absolute unit. But yeah, everything, even the ones that I've won, I've learned a whole lot from.
So you're obviously balancing a lot right now. You're preparing for this big fight, and you're working as doing construction in Montana, small town guy, try to make it in this crazy world. And then you get offered this fight against Gable Steveson, a multi-time national champ, all-American wrestler, Olympic gold medalist, a guy that a lot of people have been waiting to make this jump. And as you've probably seen, most people feel like you are the lamb being sent to slaughter, right? Like you're the guy who is poised to put Gable Steveson over so he can take that next step towards making it to the UFC. How does that make you feel knowing that's how people are viewing this fight?
I get excited about it, honestly. I like a good challenge for one, and I like to prove people wrong. Um, it has put, there's one aspect of it where there's the internet world where everybody's talking all this crap about it, and that's kind of laughable. What's kind of put a chip on my shoulder about it for me is like the bigger names, Daniel Cormier and Chael Sonnen. Chael. Um, they talk about the fight, which is huge, right? It is huge that he's coming to MMA, but nobody's even mentioned my name. Like, it takes two people to have a fight, right? And I heard Dana White say, he's like, it takes two people to have a good fight. And even if it's the loser, like, you still got to have two to have a good fight. It's not just the one person. And so it's kind of put a chip on my shoulder where now I got to prove wrong a lot of people. And so, I mean, it hasn't discouraged me in any way. If anything, it's lit a fire and gotten me really excited to prove a lot of people wrong.
And what's funny about this is that if you go out there and beat Gable, DC and Chael, they're going to ESPN, they'll hit you up. Come on the show, talk about it. And they wouldn't mention your name beforehand. They wouldn't talk about it beforehand. So yeah, it's just one of those things. And you sort of mention it like the pros outweighing the cons, so to speak, and you not turning down this opportunity. And I know a win is massive and it would mean the world to you, but do you feel like in a small way that this is a fight where, yes, you have so much to gain here, but not a lot to lose because of what we just talked about, that the pressure is off a bit? Or is it the reverse? Do you feel like even more pressure because of that chip on your shoulder?
I don't feel the pressure a whole lot. You're right. I do feel the weight of how much I have to gain by winning it. But yeah, that was kind of the tipping point for me, that moment of considering the fight and everything was, even if I go out there, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? I get the shit kicked out of me by an Olympic gold medalist, like everybody else is kind of predicting already to happen. Like that's the worst that's going to happen, but I'm going to have this, it's going to open doors either way it goes. Huge stage to be on. The whole world's going to be watching that. And I mean, the worst that could happen is already going to be really great. So winning it is going to be 1,000 times that. But
yeah, I mean, he obviously has the resume and the wrestling credentials, and he's been training with guys like John Jones and Gordon Ryan and some very big names, and John's been putting him over. And but as you very well know, competitive wrestling and training in the gym, it's not the same as being in a cage and getting punched in the face by a 270-pound heavyweight fighter who has that experience of being punched in the face by another 270-pound fighter. So as someone who's experienced it, how different will it be for him when you hit him for the first time?
I think it'll be very different. I'm not so naive as to say he won't be an Olympic wrestler, won't be able to take me down. He probably will get some takedowns in, but I think even if that happens, I think my jiu-jitsu is better than his and my striking is better than his. And so, yeah, it is very different going into the cage. Your adrenaline's going. And there's a lot of amateur mistakes to make, like in your amateur career, right? Like being able to figure out how to pace yourself, really, especially as a bigger guy. And I think I think him, it won't take a lot to get him to be stunned and try and lose his fight plan.
You mentioned that the worst case scenarios, you get the shit beat out of you, and it's still good because you're part of a big fight that a lot of people are watching, got a lot of attention. And a win, you kind of baselined it, it would obviously be massive, but just sort of diving deeper into that. What would a win do for you? Like, what will it mean? Where will this position you in the MMA ilk, so to speak? Like, if you beat Gable Steveson on September 12th, like, what does that do for you? Where does this put you? How does that change your mindset, your goals, your dreams in MMA?
I don't know. I think So for me, LFA was kind of obviously everybody dreams to get to the UFC, right? But with me starting so late and doing it so quickly, and my end goal by the end of I only plan to do this for a couple years, and my end goal was the LFA, and that was where I'd set my bar to. And so now I've made it there in 9 months, and so now it's like, okay, anything after that is bonus rounds. Um, and so I don't know what that's going to open up for me. I think it's going to be a lot that it would open up. Hopefully, moving on to bigger things. But again, it still is only going to put me at 2-0 as a pro. One of those being Gable Steveson. But um, yeah, I think it'll open a lot of options for me all over the country, I think.
Yeah, maybe you get a contender series call. I mean, the momentum would be straight downhill at that point. Like, just gotta push that to the moon. So, brass tacks here, man. How does this get done? How do you shock the world at LFA 217?
I think it's going to be an early knockout. I think it'll be first round. I have two knockouts in under 15 seconds each, and my striking is gonna outweigh his quite a bit. And my career in football through life and everything is I played O line for my whole life, and so I figured out that my a lot of power is coming from very short distance because that's what we trained and worked on for years and years, is being able to push another dude who's over 300 pounds the other way so someone else can run a ball, right? And so there's a lot of power in short bursts. So I think it's going to be an early knockout. I think he's going to come in for a takedown and regret it.
Two last things. One, we mentioned the naysayers and the people who just feel like you're just the stepping stone guy for Gable. But one thing that I have noticed through all this is you have a lot of support heading into this fight. I've seen it all over social media. What's the message you want to send to all of your fans, your supporters, your friends, coworkers, etc., who are giving you this extra motivation and sort of softening or maybe even adding in some way that chip on your shoulder and making it a little bit bigger to deliver at LFA 217?
Yeah, support has been huge. I think the biggest thing for me that means the most in all of this is I've had a couple people that have reached out to me and talked about how I've inspired them to start doing, exercise or something else. Cause, like I said, I'm starting this out late in life, and they're like, well, this guy's saying it's not too late to start something, then maybe it's not. And that's been huge for me. I never in my wildest dreams thought I'd be inspiring anybody by just trying to chase something that I want to do. So that was huge. But yeah, I mean, as far as the message goes, like I couldn't be more thankful and grateful for all the support I've gotten from friends, family, strangers. But a message, I mean, just go do it. If you want to do it, do it.
What's the message for Gable Steveson?
I don't know, man. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm not really like a big shit talker, like it's I respect the dude, and I'm excited to be a part of his journey, to kind of ride on the coattails of what he's already built. And that's great.